Fresh Thinking by Snowden Optiro. My name is Tarrant Elkington, General Manager for Snowden Optiro. Today I'm joined by Danny Tolmer, who's the Regional Manager for North America. Danny is a mining engineer with over 20 years of experience in operations and consulting across a range of commodities and mining situations. The topic for today's podcast is around the electrification of mining operations, a really interesting topic in the industry today. So in this podcast, Danny's going to give us a brief overview at a high level of this area, and then we'll delve into some of the specific technologies and points we talk about in future podcasts. So thanks for joining us today, Danny.
Thanks, Tarrant.
Just to start off, what is this thing called electrification in the context of mining operations?
So with the carbon footprint everyone's talking about today with ESG, we're trying to reduce carbon in mining as well. We're trying to look at the whole holistic cycle of how we burn diesel and burn fossil fuels, and mining is a huge consumer of fossil fuels. So we're trying to reduce our usage, and rather than use diesel, we're looking at alternatives to diesel, and electrification, using more electricity at the mines, is a key item that we're looking at.
And so I guess to delve a little bit more into the specifics of electrification, we're looking to convert the diesel from.
The haulage is the next logical step, right? It's just a huge consumer of diesel, and there are options out there. It's just whether it makes sense for the operation, and if it's economically viable is the key right now. And for some operations, it makes a lot of sense.
What are some of the technologies that people use to electrify their mining operations?
Yeah, so in-pit crusher conveyors have been out there for a long time. Snowden Optiro has been doing studies for a long time on these, and some operations are changing to that. Some large operations where they're considering longer hauls, and as they go deeper, and why not haul to a crusher, crush the ore or the waste, and haul it to a leach pad or to a waste dump, right? It just makes a lot of sense to put it on a belt rather than drive it up a ramp and drive it down a long distance to dump it, right? So that's an easy low-hanging fruit. It's like in-pit crusher conveyor. Trolley assist, it's not a new technology. The trucks are on diesel electric, so the drives are electric drives. You can hook up to a trolley just like your city trolley line, right? And use that to go up the ramp. It's on electricity, and then you disconnect and drive on diesel when you go to the dump, right? So it's a relatively flexible option, and you can keep adding increments as you go down deeper. So those are two options. There's other coming out with like a rail system, like Underground's been using rail. Open pit can use rail as well. There's some companies out there looking at putting drive motors similar to conveyors, and you run your rail up the ramp, and you have your dump. That way you don't have to crush your ore or crush your waste too. You're hauling it run of mine, ROM we call it, right? And then there's others. There's hydrogen fuel cells similar to cars, but some companies are looking at putting hydrogen on the haul trucks, and of course battery electric. It's for underground. It's definitely more advanced. Open pit, there's some tests going on, so it's getting there. I can see it in the future. We probably have a lot of electric haul trucks running around.
So I guess if we to think about it a little bit more, like we're still got to use energy to move material, right? We're still taking material from point A to point B. That takes energy, right? Do you know in each of those cases, are we actually reducing the amount of energy that we're using, or are we simply just converting the source of that energy?
It's a good question, and in some cases we're actually it's takes more energy right now to get to electrify. But in some cases, like in pit crush conveyor, for instance, if you take 10 trucks off of a fleet and you can put a conveyor belt in, it just makes a heck of a lot of sense. That's, you're not burning diesel and just you're using some electricity, hopefully from grid power and not a diesel generator, right?
Yeah, I think with the in-pit crushing and conveying, when you think about it, you're with trucks, you're carrying a lot of dead weight,
Yeah.
right? Every time you take a load up a ramp, you're carrying half the same weight again almost in the equipment itself. So, and when you're looking at a conveyor, then you've got a fixed amount of weight, much less dead weight that's being carried to move that material. But if you look at then so that's the energy side. For all the other ones, I guess you're still using the same amount of energy to propel a truck
Yeah.
up a ramp, right?
Essentially, it's just you're converting, instead of burning diesel, you're using electricity to help it up the ramp with trolley. With battery, it's you're carrying the battery load too, so there's some challenges there in recharge. There's still some challenges to electrify a mine fully, but incrementally, the mining industry is doing their best. They got the electric shovels now and the electric drills, and like I said, underground definitely advanced. Open pit, we're getting there.
What are some of the factors that influence whether these technologies would be applicable for a mining operation? If you've got a mining operation, what are the characteristics you
Yeah,
have for some of those technologies?
there's some rules of thumb. If your electricity is cheap, relatively cheap, if you got a hydro dam nearby, in-pit crushing conveyor can be an option, and especially if you're moving high tonnage. There's some rules of thumb to look at. But typically it's about it comes down to costs. So if you're going to save money, it's more economic to put it on a belt rather than drive it up a ramp. It makes a lot of sense. If you're going to save quite a bit of diesel, especially with diesel prices, we just don't know what the future for cost of diesel is. So you're going to have consistency, and you're basically you're going to spend a little more capital up front, but you're going to save in the long run because you're going to have that common costs throughout, right? There's not a heck of a lot of maintenance costs to a conveyor, for instance, rather than a large fleet of trucks.
So because we're generally replacing some variable cost with fixed infrastructure, right? So I guess from what you're saying, we're looking for like long life, big tonnage material, long haulage distance in order to get enough benefit out of that system, both environmentally and economically, to repay the capital investment.
Yeah, like I'll be honest, like if you have a small operation that's narrow vein, for instance, and you need that flexibility, it's going to be hard to change small fleet that uses diesel to fully electric. But you can still have electric drills, you can still have possibly electric shovels as long as you can manage the cables and whatnot. But you gotta consider the operational factor too. You can't just look at the economics as a standalone.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So when we're moving everything to infrastructure, all our power to infrastructure, that flexibility is a key thing. I mean, some of those the changes that you make might necessitate changes to your mine plan or the economics, the revenue generation profile.
It's a significant change, especially if you're putting in fixed infrastructure like a crusher and conveyors or a rail. It's a significant change to your design. It's not just a plug and play, for instance, like a conventional truck and shovel. But like I said, there are some huge advantages. So if you got that long mine life, high tonnage, and long hauls, then why not plan for the future and spend a little bit of money up front, but you're going to save in the long run. You'll get your return back, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, in your experience, what have been the trends in the uptake of some of these technologies? Is it increasing or is
It's
it
definitely
changing?
increasing. I mean, with ESG, like with the current climate change in all around the world, everyone's looking at how we can each individually reduce our carbon footprint, and the mining industry has got a, I'm going to say, but we're been blacklisted. We're a high polluter, but we're doing our best to change that image, and electrification is one of the key things to help that image of ESG on the mining industry.
Yeah, I think when you look at the two things, the economic side of it, like is this thing you're doing going to save you money, and is it going to improve your emissions? Ideally, what we're looking for is something that can do both.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can do both, then it's a no-brainer. And the more challenging thing is where there's environmental benefit, but not necessarily economic benefit. And then do you still go ahead?
Yeah, well, not every jurisdiction has like a tax credit for carbon savings, right? But the ones that do, I mean, of course, you're going to look for every option, every possibility to save on your cost, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we might leave it there, Danny, for this high-level overview of electrification, mining operations and haulage. But thank you very much for joining us here on this podcast and giving us some of your insights. If you'd like to listen to more of our Fresh Thinking by Snowden Optiro podcasts, you'll find them for free on our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and most other podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on our YouTube channel so we can keep you up to date with our future releases.